Yo, what's happening guys? Welcome back to Tokimotive. It's S13 time again. Gonna get cracking on the rust on the other side, which is a lot worse, and hell, it's even worse than what I thought it was, and I knew this side was bad. Let's get cracking into it, and let's see just exactly how bad this is before we cut it out. That's not good. So I've decided where I'm gonna cut for this. There's a spot weld there, so I'll cut just above it, run a straight line across here, so I don't have to mess with and try and rebuild this seam. And then there's a spot weld right there, just below this line, that I can drill out and then all the way down. And then this piece is separate to here, but it's joined to that one. So there's spot welds all the way along here that I'll drill out, and then I'll drill out all the spot welds up in the side here, and hopefully this whole outer will come off fairly neatly and in shape to get a template. Yeah, me. Really is a white wagon all over again, but it's an S13, so it's sick. Well, Alice, how deep does the rabbit hole go? That is the lesson of why, as I learnt before, you cut out more than what you think you'll need to cut out. Buy an S13, they said. It'd be fun, they said. Well, I'm starting to get a nice collection of rusty S13 panels. I'm gonna treat that and probably start making rust cuts and panels for it. Part of my rust cuts can be put back in with a bit of surfacing on the back, like this piece, which is quite intricate. I don't really want to have to try and remake to keep the strength in that area, but what's on the back of it, mostly dirt and a little bit of surface rust. I kind of just cut it out so I had access to the other bits to clean them up. This is all that's left of that. So I don't think I'm going to get a template of that. I think I'm just going to get the rough idea of where it should sit. I'm going to bend that back to shape, and I'm just going to put a solid piece of metal in there. Well, I'm going to keep cracking on, and hopefully I can make this side look somewhat decent. Worst case, this side skirts. Hey. Silva! So what I'll do is I'll sort of template the rest of this, run this line directly across and then up to build my template from that. So just get your piece that you want to actually scribe out, put it on your paper, hold it down pretty firm, dirty hand, and just rub it around the outside of the piece, making sure to keep everything in the same spot. Now, I have a rough template of what I'm going to cut out. I'll transfer this paper outline onto metal that I got out of the OG wagon. I literally cut out a large chunk of the roof. If you've seen the last video on the S13, you would have seen that. Hopefully, it fits in mint. The next layer is going to be the hard part. Well, there's some ugly full of piss welds, but grind back, they'll do the job. Well, I had to rebuild some of the metal through here because I wore it way too thin using the flap disc. They're ugly, but I'm going to have to leave them there because getting the angle with the grinder in there, it's kind of really hard to see without wearing the metal thin. So I'm not going to keep messing with that. It's all tucked up away and hidden. I'm just going to seal it with some good paint and then leave it at that. Time to start making templates for the rest of the outside. And this is where the real fun begins. Now, because I didn't go trusting the whole thing of cut out more than you think you need, I have 3 pieces. Well, this one's alright. It's just a light bit of surface on the back, so I'm just going to clean that up. I'm going to put that back in. And then I've got these 3 lovely pieces. If I position the paper over them, then I might be able to just place this in the next spot and then this in the next spot and have it work that way. See how well this goes. Either way, I'll have to make it happen. It's going to be hard to get this to fold up to somewhat match that shape. I feel like there's going to be a little bit of loss of the structural ribbing in there, but at the end of the day, it's going to be a hell of a lot stronger than cheese. I'm going to get cracking into it. Dirty finger scribing technique once again. Here's sort of what I come up with of how I'm going to bend the seam, the spot welds in. I've got 2 pieces of boards, these are my toe plates, and they come down and they're quite flat along this front surface. Clamp that like that, and then I can push that fold up, and then I'll just hammer along the outside of the seam, and that should give me a nice crisp seam. And then I can have a look at how it's going to fit up, because at the moment that seam's going to get in the way of testing the fitment. So this is how I'm going to have to do it. Even though I've preemptively sprayed the hell out of this with brake cleaner, there was still some contamination in the back, which has been blowing the hell out of my welds, so that's not great. I'm pleased this is the back panel and not the front panel, so I'm definitely going to have to make sure to spray the living daylights out of this once I've cleaned it back for putting the outer skin on. I don't really want a repeat of trying to do the other side, which that's what this bit's being so far, which is definitely not ideal. Well, that looks ugly as hell, but it's not going to interfere with anything. So honestly, I'm probably just going to leave it because I don't know where the base height of all this mess is because it kept blowing the welds out. I think I'm just going to chase my tail for hours like I did on the other side, trying to make it flat and smooth. But it's not going to interfere with putting the outer panel on, so I'm not going to worry about it. Done a rough little outline of where I've got to trim and chop on this outer piece. And that, bye. This car is a mess. In order to try and prevent any contamination that might still be in the area, I'm just going to give everything a blast down with brake cleaner, give this a blast down before I paint the back side of it with weld through primer. I have an actual weld through primer Well, time for this dog. Oh, time for this dog to go in that dog. It doesn't fit that great, but honestly, this is a pretty kinked up, weird, technical panel to kind of do. And once again, I'm not a professional. I'm just a dumbass in his shed, having a go, trying to do everything themselves. Take what I say with a grain of salt if you want, but yeah, this side has definitely been a challenge. Try and do this neatly, but so far this ain't working out neat. Thankfully, this is the panels that are not on the outside. The one on the outside, thankfully, is a much simpler, smoother panel. Doesn't have a bunch of whoops. End of the day, this, even if it doesn't 100% match and I got to pull some things into place to get a good weld on it, that's a hell of a lot stronger than the rusty crap I pulled out of there that was like paper thin and had holes everywhere. That bit, it's not really doing much for strength. I'm probably literally going to leave it how it is. It's been treated, it's been ripped back with wire wheel. It's going to be alright, it's not going to progress any rust later on. At the end of the day, there's people out there drifting S13s that are like ready to snap in half with rust. This is still much better than that, so I'm just going to kind of send this one. Let's face it, what's the chance of me binning the corner of it at a track somewhere and then chopping the arches and going over fenders anyway later down the track? Let's face it, it's a possibility, because if there's a wall I can run, I'm gonna get up on that. Best thing, I love that Archie with the old wagon. Scraping the exhaust in the corner of the bumper on the wall. Railing limiter, wet weather, whatever, and just watching people on the sidelines like, woo! I love that. Who doesn't love that? So let's face it, it's probably going to get roughed up anyway. It is going to be a drift car. Well, that is some hideousness if I've ever seen it. At least it's metal, not rust, I guess. So I got my little piece marked out. This is going to form up sort of that outside fold seam, but on that inner piece. By doing it with a separate piece that I weld on, I can sort of hammer that sort of curve into it that little bit, and I don't have to try and shrink that seam the whole way by making it one piece, because then I've got a patch panel with two seams on it, which means I have to tuck and shrink it, hammer it flat, tuck and shrink it, hammer it flat to slowly get that curve in the actual patch panel, which is a pain. Alternatively, you make another little piece, tack it on, hammer it to shape, get it to sort of form in nicely, weld it up, grind it back, and then give it a little touch-ups with a hammer if it needs it to sort of get the shape back into it of how it wants to be. This is all info I'm getting from Make It Custom. Definitely check him out, Make It Customs, with a K on the customs. That's where I'm getting most of my bodywork information from. I'm not the best welder in the world, I'm not the best fabricator in the world, but this is a whole lot better than a ton of rust. Hopefully, with welding on that outer panel when I get to making it, it will not have as bad a contamination issue, because I can't get in there really to clean the factory primer out properly and sand it back to a nice bare metal. So certain spots it just picks up contamination and just blows out the weld instantly, and then I'm just going around rebuilding it till the shit burns off, and then I'm actually able to get something semi-solid on it. As soon as I get this rust fixed here, I can start putting the car together a bit, make it look more like a car, and start working on fixing the abomination that is the front tubs on this thing. So, I'm going to get the time lapse going, I'm going to crack right into it, probably going to put some tunes on for myself, put some tunes on for you guys, a little bit of non-copyright music, unfortunately. That will be pretty well right to clean up and start welding into place. Once I get some tacks along it, I can sort of force that last little bit of shape in the back here, which I don't want to mess with too much because I don't want to throw out the alignment of that now that I've gotten it good. All in all, I'm pretty damn happy with that. A good clean up. A little bit of a off of there. As you can see, there's still purple on it, so it's still within the stencil line. So I'll just run the bench grinder along that section, and she should be pretty damn close. This little bit of extra meat here can help me get that nice fold around on this side. So then I can build my little fill-in piece, weld it up, grind it back, get it sort of like this. Not too bloody bad for an amateur. So one mistake I did realise I made while I was making this patch panel, I forgot to strip it back before I shaped it, which is going to make it harder to strip all the old paint off of it, which not the end of the world, but I just got to be careful cleaning it up now so that I don't take any of the finer shape out of it. And you notice I did use pliers to sort of get some of the bends, which I probably shouldn't have done because it does put slight deformities in the metal that I don't want, like little dimples, but it's not too bad. It's not the end of the world. This is all stuff that goes under a side skirt, so I'm not that concerned. I got most of them back out of it. Most of it's back gone again, but you can still see a little bit of it. I just sort of planished it out with a hammer. For that, I'd probably recommend just doing sort of what I did with the two pieces of board, clamping them together to bend to get that sort of edge. But I mostly just shaped up the finer angles where it matches into the quarter with my thumbs until it sat in the right shape. And it fits pretty close, so I'm going to clean this up, get welding it in. Hopefully, comes up pretty mint. I was going to do the little compressor blowing technique where you tack and then cool the tack, tack, cool the tack. On trying to empty the water from the compressor, the little fitting that screws in just blew out, yinned itself somewhere into frickin' who knows where. I have no idea where it is. I've just been searching for the past 20 minutes and I cannot find it. So I'm just gonna have to go real careful. It's over a long panel, so hopefully they can cool quick enough that it doesn't cause me an issue. As long as it doesn't pull any sort of shape into the panel I don't want, it should be okay. At the end of the day, all this is gonna be under side skirts anyway. It's always something. although it didn't turn out exactly as good as I'd planned. That technique where you do attack and then cool it with compressed air, and attack and cool it, attack and cool it, definitely has value. Once I didn't have access to that, like it didn't matter on the inner panels, it just mattered that it was strong, which is why I didn't grind them back like crazy, because I risked grinding through the existing metal to the point that it was thin and kind of pointless being there, because it was all tight and groovy and stuff. So I'm just like, nah, it's not worth it. I'll just grind them back a bit so they're not too bulbous and leave them as they are. But you can't do that for outer panels. Without doing that little cooling technique, definitely shrunk the metal right around the welds and pulled it in, which you can see there is that distortion along the bottom. Didn't warp the whole panel, thankfully. If I tried to hot weld the whole thing, probably would have, but it definitely pulled that in, which also made it harder to get a smooth, seamless finish on the welds. So there's definitely big value in that. But while it didn't turn out as good as I had hoped, I'm still happy with that. Still a hell of a lot better than rust. Still damn well stronger. The rust went through 3 layers, so now it's got 3 layers of actual metal back in there, which is a big thing. That's a hell of a lot better than rust, and it's going to last a hell of a lot longer. And at the end of the day, it's going to be covered with side skirts, and it's going to be a drift / street car. So it's going to get beaten up anyway. And the other side in that spot, if you watched the last video, if you haven't, I suggest you should, because it goes a lot more in depth of the techniques, and I can actually do the cooling the tack technique in that one. It's drift car, it's going to get beaten up. The other side's already rippled and crinkly from previous damage before I got the car, but it, honestly, that's alright. It looks the part, hell of a lot better than a dirty big rust hole, a lot stronger. I'm happy with that. And the best thing of all, now that I've got past this step, which, you know, if I'd done this step while the car's together, it probably would have caught on fire pretty freaking bad. Now, I can start really putting this back together and starting to make it look like a car, and then start doing some modifications and things and getting it ready so that it can receive an engine and everything like that. I just really want to really crack into it. Anyways, guys, that's going to be it. I'm really going to start cracking into the Silva now. I really appreciate you guys watching my content, leaving likes, comments, all the rest of it. And the tips I've picked up from you guys in the comments. Some of them have been really freaking good. Honestly, I just enjoy working on cars, driving them, having adventures with cars, and sharing that with the world. It's one of those things. I grew up in the dawn of YouTube. I always loved cars, and obviously automotive YouTube just struck a tone with me. Took a lot of years for me to finally decide to do it. I just love putting out content for people like me. Like, I learnt a lot, most of my stuff, from YouTube. It motivates me, watching other people building their cars and kicking goals on their projects. It motivates me. Thank you guys for watching. Leave a like if you enjoyed the video. Comment, let me know your thoughts on what I've done here, and if you got any tips for the next time I have to do this. Hopefully not soon. Thank you for watching to the end. Thank you for everyone that watches my content, likes, everything. I love doing this, so I want to keep doing it, and I want to see this channel hit more and more and more milestones. So, thank you guys again. I couldn't do this without the people watching. Hope you enjoyed the content. Hope you enjoyed the video. Leave a like if you did. Thank you guys for watching to the end, and I'll see you on the next one. Peace. Oh.